Absheni, bonjour, dumelang, aye, molweni, sanbon. Greetings. My name is Buyanizwane. I am delighted to be able to engage with you as an agripreneur. You are about to be able to venture into a discussion on business modeling. It's a very critical subject for us to go into because each and every one of us involved in business have to be able to find a model that works well for us. I know for a fact that you are responding to specific desires and specific needs in the marketplace. You have chosen to be a part of this program. You have been selected to be a part of this program. You will take it to the end because you are determined to make a difference. We are engaged in this conversation with less than 90 days left in the year 2021. For well over 560 days, we've been operating in an environment wherein an invisible enemy has been defining how we interact one to another. We've had legislation, we've had draconian rules presented through to us which defined our movements and defined who we could do business with. In that space, we've operated with VUCA as a key word that entrepreneurs have had to be able to contend with. Volatility of markets, uncertainty of the future, opening, closing, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, complete lockdown, complexity. Who do we do business with? Who is our customer? Who actually gets to be able to buy what we have? Ambiguity. Which legislation gets to be applied by whom? Who defines and explains the interactions? Is it the president? Is it the minister? Who is the one who simplifies things for us all? In this kind of environment, it becomes absolutely vital that we are clear about our strategy. As a business person, you would want to have developed a very clear strategy you are going to be able to use to be relevant in the marketplace. And as you develop that, there are various approaches you could very well have considered. We will talk to a few of those in this module. Executing the strategy becomes extremely vital because far too often we think what we want to do, but do not get to executing or delivering on that which we've promised. It becomes important that the execution process is a very disciplined one. And therefore, it will be critical that you spend some time thinking about how what you've been doing up until now is yielding or not yielding the results you intended for yourself. As you build your business, you also would want to be able to contemplate, is it being built in order to be attractive to an investor out there? Is it being built to be able to ensure that you can pass it on to next generation? What is it that you are building the business for? Sustaining your business will require an involvement of more than just yourself. It is therefore necessary that you take some time to review the journey you've covered up until now and look into the future and determine the appropriate steps that need to be followed in order to build your business such that it is one that can withstand the pressures and the challenges of time. Agility is an attribute that helps us to navigate difficult and different terrains. Indeed, Charles Darwin stated, "It is not the fastest nor the fittest of species that survive. It is the most adaptive." Our ability to be able to adapt in the terrains that have been defined by the pandemic have enabled us to be engaging with one another as we are right now. At the same time, during 2020, Jeff Henderson released a very instructive book that helps us to put on a new lens in the way in which we define what we do in any sector of business. He asks us to be able to look into not so much about being the best in the world, but being best for the world. Not being best in the sector, but being best for the sector. And he challenges us to be able to look into at least 4 key stakeholders that are critical for the success of any enterprise. Every business operates within society. So working from the outside in, we need to start off and say, how can my enterprise be good for society? How can it be good for the customer? And then, how can this business that I'm involved in make my team feel good about itself and continue to do good for others? At the same time, I need to be able to look into that how I do business and the business that I'm in is good for me. It's not about being selfish, but it's about ensuring that there is self-care, and with that in place, it is possible for me to be able to wake up every day with clarity of purpose and pursue profitability as secondary, because purpose drives everything we do. Our why is clear, and when our why is clear, the how and the what will follow with the greatest of ease. Enterprises become effective when they have done a thorough diagnosis of what are the needs out in the marketplace, who is responding to those needs, and what are the kind of results that are presently being delivered. In the determination of the gap between what it is that is required and what is currently being offered, the opportunity to be able to set up your business stands out. It is from there, therefore, that purpose for your business becomes clearer. And purpose achieved with excellence makes the vision become something we can pursue. And a vision is that which we are working towards, out of reach, but inside. To do it well, we need to define for ourselves the values we're going to live by. And the values do not get to be a shopping list that we use because everybody else has got values. They're defined by that which we value. And when we have clarified our values and we've determined for ourselves how we will distinguish ourselves in our conduct in the marketplace, the paradigm that defines who we are, we can then formulate a strategy. And this session is about looking into the formulation of your business strategy in a manner that helps you to not just be competitive, but to also be effective in your execution of that for which you established your business. Obviously, there will be a necessity for you to have clear processes that you can utilize on a consistent basis, and you will need to be able to structure yourself. Too often, enterprises have got structure before strategy, but we want to emphasize right here that it is your strategy that should define how you structure yourself. In an environment of COVID-19, we've been forced to be able to structure ourselves and package even our products in a manner that ensures greater safety for the users. Systems that we use are critical. When we define them very, very well, they enable the business to operate without us being the key person all the time. I think it's also important for us to be able to consider, as we operate in this environment and we look into the future, what kind of behavior will our business be associated with? It is that which we promote and that which we do not allow space for that determines the culture of our organization. I want to challenge you to be able to really contemplate what culture will be synonymous with your organization. With so many continuously operating in a space of excuses, what are you doing to be able to overcome the challenges of the world around you? Since the late 1970s, the holy grail of business strategy has been the application of the 5 forces that shape strategy introduced by Harvard business professor Michael E. Porter. All strategies have made reference back to that, with a framing that was based on beating the competition, because there is supposedly a fierce rivalry amongst players, as it were. The operation over the last 2 decades has been revised as we look into finding ways in which we're not about beating the competition, but about making the competition irrelevant. If nothing else, COVID-19 got us into just that space where we've needed to be able to think differently, create new demands, and really disprove the trade-off that is there around what value is being provided versus at what cost. We've come to appreciate that there is a need for us to be able to disrupt the marketplace or be disrupted. In fact, be rendered totally irrelevant. Professors from INSEAD, W. Chen Kim, and Renee Mabone introduced the concept of the blue ocean strategy. And we would want to be able to refer to that because it gives us angles on which we could be able to enter into the marketplace that may be highly contested, but we go into it and be truly successful. There are at least 4 actions that they propose we need to be able to look into if we are going to not worry about capturing the existing demand, that we're not going to worry about making the trade-off between value and cost. As we move from the holy grail of the 5 forces that shape strategy and embrace the 4-action framework proposed in the blue ocean strategy, we get to be both pain relievers and gain creators. We become pain relievers when we look into the industry and consider which factors are taken for granted that should really be eliminated. And we also look into factors that should be reduced well below the industry standard. As we do so, we open up opportunities for us to be able to become great gain creators. How do we do that? We get to look into factors that we know in our experience should be raised well above the industry standard, and we look for opportunities as this situation of operating within the pandemic has provided for us. We begin to create those things that had never been offered before. By doing so, we create gains for ourselves, for our customers, for the whole stakeholder base that we have been servicing or are seeking to service into the future. Put differently, eliminating and reducing are the factors that have to do and focus themselves on cost management and cost containment. While on the other hand, raising and creating is about increasing value and making things come through for the better. It is for this reason, therefore, that I'd like to encourage you to take seriously, spend some time reviewing your business. And next thing we do is an activity that I want you to be able to engage with wholeheartedly, because it will mean a difference between success and a repeat of what may have been done by others but did not yield the results that they are proud of, and you should not fall prey of the same. I'd like for you to take some time, really, now look into your existing business, your enterprise, and check for yourself. Having gone through the pandemic situation has afforded us the chance to begin to investigate what are the things that we've been doing that really were just nice to have. So you start looking into factors that the agricultural sector has been taking for granted that should really be done away with. What are those? Write them down. Having eliminated factors that aren't adding value, you start looking at that which needs to be reduced well below the standard that the industry had taken for granted. And as you look through that, you begin to release for yourself resources and time to pay attention to the things that truly matter. What are those factors that you know, if you reduce them well below the industry standard, would afford you real opportunity for growth? List those. In the past 560 days, you began to realize things that society and industry has been clamoring for more. And therefore, you should be saying to yourself, what are the factors that need to be raised above the industry standard that, if they're there, will make your offering, products and services, become indispensable? Write that down. Finally, as you look at what has been going on in the past almost 2 years, there are factors which the industry has been looking for but had not been provided for up until now. What do you think you could create that the industry would embrace you for having provided? Write that down. And as you finish that, you begin to appreciate the game creation process. Returning to the work of Jeff Henderson, we begin to appreciate that working from the outside in, and as an entrepreneur, you lead the business. As you lead the business, you need to pay attention to what's happening to society, the impact of your business to society at large, while at the same time ensuring that you take good care of you. Because if the business succeeds, but you are not able to enjoy the fruit thereof, it is actually a failure. You hire people to be able to take care of what's happening at a customer level and at a team level. We call those managers. But of course, if it is to be that your business is still small, you may find that you're needing to be able to play both leader and manager. If that is the case, pay attention to what's happening from society in terms of the needs that they have. Convert those who are customers and non-customers to choose to work with you, to choose your products or your services. And as you do so, come back to your team to be able to establish from them what they have heard out of their own intelligence and visiting out there in the client space, what it is that we should be able to provide that others are not providing, or what we could provide better than everybody else out in the marketplace. Literary author and poet George Bernard Shaw many years ago articulated that this is true joy in life, being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one. That links back to what we just heard from Jeff Henderson. Being thoroughly worn out before you are thrown on the scrap heap. Being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. That is extracting from society and nature. He further says, life is no brief candle to me. It's sort of a splendid torch which I have got a hold of for the moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations. This is about legacy. When you think about the sustainability of your business, this is where your joy will be. When your grandchildren look back with pride at what you have begun and what you have established, and it has had impact on so many people out there. Most of the time, we've got teams that are not really clear about their core purpose. There are about 3 questions we would like to draw your attention to right now. First, what is the job that your customers are hiring you and your organization to be able to do or provide for them? Not so much the job description you've defined for yourself, but from a customer perspective. Secondly, you got to be able to ask yourself if you're the team by yourself or you actually have assembled a team, how does what you do as a team connect to the mission and the strategy of the organization? And finally, you've got to be able to think about your money-making model. In the writing of What the CEO Wants You to Know, Ram Charan presents at least 5 key areas we need to be able to pay attention to. First, cash. It is critical that your business generates cash. Second, it's margin. The margin you generate helps you to continue to do business in the lean months, because if it is to be that your margin is too low or too thin, you are unable to sustain the business through the difficult months. Thirdly, it's looking into velocity, which has to do with the speed with which you get things done. If you are able to make a better turnaround, you may very well be in the blue ocean space that others are still seeking to get to, but they're too busy in the red ocean. Fourth, it's understanding the customer. When we are clear about the customer as well as the current non-customers, we are able to shape the work we do as a team to be able to be responsive to the customer requirements. And finally, you've got to be able to look into growth. Because if the business is not growing, it may have all kinds of goals, but it will suffer as a result. Be clear about your goals. So in your money-making model, look into those 5 and see which do you lead with, because whichever you lead with will give direction for the rest of your organization, your team, and yourself each day. Operating within the COVID-19 environment and going into the future requires determination amongst each and every one of us. Booker T. Washington said this many years ago, but it is relevant and resonates even now. Your success is not measured so much as the position that you have reached in life, as it is by the obstacles that you have overcome. Stay the course. Writing very early in the start of the 20th century, L. Nightingale said, "Success is a progressive realization of a worthwhile ideal." You are part of this program. There are some key things that you have set for yourself. I'd like to believe that this engagement spurs you into delivering exceptional work for yourself, for the organization, for your customers, and indeed for South Africa. May it be your best year going forward.